We surveyed 1,800 clients of professional and financial services firms. So think wealth management, attorneys, accountants, a couple of B2B like consulting companies like McKinsey, Accenture. And we went to these 1,800 clients with a simple set of questions, but the key question we asked them is if a competitor came along, wanted to do business with you, and they were half the price, and they had twice the track record or twice the promise of return that was credible. So they're half the price and they're twice as good, would you switch? And surprisingly, a lot of people in the study said they'd switch. We tried at 10, 20, 30, no, 50% was the switch point. But what we identified out of 1,800 was a subset, less than 200, that said, no, I'm not going to switch. I'm going to stick with my current partner because I don't think of them as a financial advisor. I think of them as a partner in my life. And then the word essential showed up out of that less than 200. The word essential showed up 72 times. 72 times in the secondary interviews. It kept over and over again, he or she is essential. It's like an essential ingredient to my success, etc. So then we begin to profile those advisors that were deemed essential partners. And we did it from both sides. So we talked to the client, how would you describe their added value then? And then we would actually go profile a smaller set. In this case, we work with 40 different professional service or financial service people themselves and kind of validated it from their side. And here's what we've learned. You're not essential, and this applies to what you do as a consultant to your speaking clients. You're not essential just because you know your product, not just because you're highly responsive, not just because you deliver on what you promise, and not just because you're great at remembering people's names and chumminess and developing rapport. That's table stakes. That doesn't make you essential. That makes you a good option. Okay? And being a good option is a bad strategy. So being a good option is a bad strategy, but the essential partner, they do all those things, but there's 3 things we learned they all do. And this is coming from the clients. The first thing they are is a sounding board. I mean, clients would say things to us in the secondary interviews like, I can tell my financial advisor things I can't tell my spouse without getting judged. And they're my sounding board. If I've got an idea, even that's not related to financial advice, I bounce it off of them. If I've got a crisis, they're the first person I call. And it's because they've developed deep listening skills, and they've conquered the tendency to have active listening skills. Because people are completely trained wrong in the world of client management and professional services. We train people that listening is a research tool, right? So we listen for triggers. And what we're looking for is triggers to recommend products. So we're listening actively. We usually cut them off. We hear something and the trigger goes off, and the minute they take a break, we add value, right? That's called active listening. The essentials don't do that. The essentials listen. The second thing that they are is they're a fountain of knowledge. And that's a very specific phrase I use, a fountain of knowledge. And this is very similar to Love is a Killer App, but basically, the essential partner is extremely concerned about delivering high return on attention. I call it ROA. They understand that the client's number one resource, the most precious thing, is their time. And so when they give that advisor an hour of their time, they expect wow. Not catch-up call, not checking in. I mean, they hate check-inners. The check-inners had the worst CRM when you looked at the statistics. They don't want to hear about your latest and greatest product or whatever you're excited about. They want an insight that is compact, easy to repeat and tell forward, and most importantly, highly relevant to a current problem they have. And the secret to the essentials is they close all the value gaps. And the best example I use for this is Mercedes when they launched the smart car in Europe. They did this customer capitalism exercise. And they realized that, for example, when you have a smart car in Europe, you can't drive that dude on the Autobahn. You can't get on the Autobahn in that casket on wheels. So they realized that the customer doesn't want to buy a smart car. The customer is trying to buy short-haul mobility. That's why Uber disrupted cars so much, is because car people thought they were selling cars, and Uber realized, no, people just want short-haul mobility. So they kind of disrupt the car industry. That's how it happened. So Mercedes says, okay, we have to look at everything a client needs around short-haul mobility, and they found gaps. They said, we provide retail, we provide repair, but we don't provide rental. I mean, how many times have you rented a car that was a different brand, like a Chevrolet Malibu, for example, for me, when I was like, I've been driving Mercedes forever. It's not a bad car. It's a third of the price. It was a huge competitive issue for them, so they offered their own rental solution. They offered their own insurance solution. They offered their own detailing solution. For first-time buyers, of which many were, the smart car were teenagers, they offered driver education. They just thought creatively about everything around the higher order problem, and they organized a partner network. That's the third thing the essential partner does that's really effective.